When we were meeting with the neurologist, he came short of pounding the desk. He said, "You don't understand. Your daughter's brain dead." And we told him, "You don't understand. We're going to do whatever we need to do to help her."
We are Spirit 52, capturing the real spirit of high school sports in Arkansas. Presented by First Security Bank and by Gatorade, inspiring us all to what's possible.
I remember I was at Fayetteville High School actually. We had just finished practice and we were in one of the classrooms watching film, getting ready for our first playoff game that week against Bryant. And I remember seeing the door open and seeing my little brother. I remember kind of being confused, thinking why they were at the high school. They called me over and I walked out, and that's where I got the news.
We were getting ready because one of our boys had a basketball tryout, and I went to take a quick shower, figured out the baby gate, and pushed open a heavy door and got out to the pool area. I'd come out looking for her to get her dressed so that we could go, and she's missing. When I realized that no one is really sure where she is, and I immediately ran to the worst place she could be, the pool.
They told me that she had fell in the pool, and that at that time she was still unresponsive, so they didn't know if she was going to make it or not.
She had 100 minutes of CPR, and so any moment we thought that they would give up and just call it.
When we finally got a heartbeat, I went and found the kids here. That her heart was beating again. It was a big relief for them.
They life flighted her to Little Rock, and we drove down there immediately.
So she was first in the ICU, and her organs were not working. Her liver wasn't working, her kidneys weren't working. She was on a ventilator breathing for her.
Their motivation at the hospital after they diagnosed her with a severe brain injury was just to get her medically sound so that we could feed her and medicate her, and once she was stable, to send her home.
And that was very overwhelming, of course, to bring her home. And now, you know, the nurses had been doing everything for us, and now we were the nurses.
Right before we left, we had a meeting with 15 doctors, and they all convinced us that she would be in this vegetative state for the rest of her life. And at some point, we needed to consider putting her into a home. We
were a little angry. You know, they kind of just throw their arms up in the air and say, there's nothing more we can do. An EEG is showing us that she has no brain activity.
Throughout my family, there was a lot of strain, there was a lot of devastation. Not having her always running around the house, but instead laying on a blanket on the ground, you know, not being able to do anything for herself. And then I think me leaving definitely affected it as well. When you're applying to serve a mission, you don't actually get to choose where you go.
We thought maybe that he wouldn't go because of everything that happened, but he said, no, my family needs these blessings.
If you could in any way help her, you know, my sacrifice or anything like that, then that's what I needed to do. When it came down to it, that was really the reason I ended up going.
I know from August's standpoint, for the last 2 or 3 months until the accident, our focus was 100% on him. It's his senior year. All of a sudden, we're in a hospital room with a completely different set of priorities.
Well, they had to make sure that she was on the correct combination of medications to like manage her neurostorming, which is something common that children and adults as well go through after an anoxic brain injury. So she would have these fits, and we had to get the right combination of medication for her to control that.
Through a lot of investigation and a lot of internet searches, found this doctor in New Orleans and reached out to him. He had some sobering things to say, you know, that the brain damage was definitely there. He asked us what our expectations were, and we told him we just want to communicate with her. We want her to be able to tell us if she's hot, if she's cold, if she's hungry.
And so here we are on a timeline though, and we can't get her to New Orleans because we've got to get him off to Africa. In the interim, Dr. Hart asked us to put her on 2 liters of oxygen twice a day for 45 minutes. And we did that and immediately saw a change in her. Just from that, her whole body calmed down and relaxed a little bit. And her eyes started to focus, and she started smiling at us.
Well, that happened right before I left. And you know, when started seeing that stuff, I knew that, you know, there's a really good chance that, you know, she'll come back and she'll be okay. It wasn't until like the day I was leaving that it really set in, like, okay, well, I'm leaving the country for 2 years. Going down the runway and taking off, I can't really remember exactly how I felt. Wow, this is really happening. Is this what I'm supposed to be doing?
Next week on Spirit 52, the conclusion of holding on to hope.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure and click subscribe so you don't miss any of our sports talk, Hogs in 60, Touchdown Club, or Spirit 52 coverage.